continuing on with our NFL average ticket price example here. So first thing here, what is the sample size? So just as a reminder, the symbol for sample size is going to be a lowercase n. And that is, again, just as a reminder, the sum of the frequencies. So if we add up all those frequencies, what do we get? And we should get 32, which is the number that comes from right there in our cumulative frequency part. Okay. What is the variable? So what is it that we were trying to find out? So this is all information about average ticket price. And what kind of variable is it? Okay, so is it qualitative or quantitative? Well, it's definitely not qualitative. Okay, those are not, categories. This is about price. This is about money. And again, what do we do with money? We count money. And so not only does it make it quantitative, but more specifically, it makes it discrete. Okay, money is always discrete. What is the class width? Okay, now first let me give you a definition of what class width means. Okay, so the definition is the difference between consecutive lower class limits. Okay, so you're going to go up to the classes. Now, by the way, each of these categories here, these are all classes, okay? And so the difference between consecutive, so 2 in a row, lower class limits. So pick any 2 you want. I'm gonna pick the first 2 just for fun. So that would be 100 minus 50, and you will get a class width of 50. And you'll find that for any of them. Again, not anything terribly difficult, but you might want to write it down so you've got it for later. And then how many classes are there? So another way to think of classes is like groups, okay? And you can see from our table there, we've got 5 different classes or 5 different groups that we are looking at. All right, and then at the top of the next page, we want to create a frequency histogram, okay? A frequency histogram. Now, there are some things that we need to include in our frequency histogram, okay? So it must include all of the following. So first, you're going to need a title, all right? You need labels on the axes, vertical and horizontal. Okay, you need a scale. And on the horizontal axis, you need the lower class limits only. Okay, you don't use the upper ones. And then the other thing about a frequency histogram or a histogram in general is that here the bars are going to touch. I'm thinking about a bar graph. A bar graph, the bars do not touch, but in a histogram, the bars actually do touch each other. Okay, so let's work on sketching here our histogram. So we need a vertical and a horizontal axis. Okay. It says we're only going to include the lower class limits. So we're going to start over here at 50, and you do start right in the corner. And then we'd have 100, 150, 200, 250. And even though our data doesn't go up that far, we do need to include a 300 just to kind of cap things off. So that would be the start of the next class, all right? And at some point, I'm sure some team will end up with a category in there anyway. So this needs a label, so we're gonna go for ticket price in dollars. Okay, And then on this vertical scale here, these are going to be the frequencies. So how often this occurs. So if you go back and look at your table on the previous page, you will see that the highest frequency, and I'm not talking cumulative frequency, the highest frequency is 14. So we need to go up just a little higher than that. So I'm going to count by fives and just go up to 15. Okay, and I'm going to switch colors just because I can. There's no need to switch colors necessarily, just helps emphasize. So that first one, the 50 to 100, there were 14 teams in there. So I'm going to estimate where 14 would be and put in my first class. Okay, for the next one, looking at it, there are 7 teams in that category. So again, bars are touching. So 7 high there. And then there's 5 in the next category of data. Then 4, so just a little bit smaller. And then in that 250 to 299, there are 2, and so a little bit there. The bars should be, again, roughly equal. I'm not going to get out a ruler and measure to be super specific, but they should be roughly equal. And then there's one thing I'm still missing. So if you look at our list of things we need, we don't yet have a title. And so I'm going to give this a title of average ticket price for NFL home games. Okay, and it should be something semi-descriptive. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out sentence, but you can't just say ticket prices because you don't know what they're for. You can't just say NFL. What about the NFL? Okay, and somehow get in that average ticket price would be, average would be important as well. Okay, so there's an example of a histogram. Now, a few guidelines for you if you're making a histogram on your own. Okay, so here are some guidelines. The class width should be the same for each class. Okay, in other words, you can't have a width of, the $50 for one class and then go up to $150 for the next. They all need to be the same. Okay. Even if that means like something wouldn't be in the class, you can have a class that doesn't have anything in it. All right. There should be somewhere between 5 and 20 classes. Now, my personal choice is not to have 20. You can. I mean, if you have a really large data set, you may need 20. I like to keep it at 15 or less personally. And in this class, I'm going to make sure we keep it probably no more than 8 or 9 maximum, just for common sense type stuff. And then you do include empty classes if they are in the middle. Okay, but not at the ends. So if you're going to have a class that has no values in it, it's fine if it's in the middle, but don't put it on an end. You just basically leave it off at that point. If it's going to be on an end, that would kind of be silly. There is one other thing I need to do. I just realized back here that I ignored some instructions that say interpret the histogram. I forgot to do that part, interpret the histogram. So again, this is just a matter of what can you say, based on the histogram. And so again, lots and lots of different things that you could potentially say based on the histogram. You could say that, it's most common to have an average ticket price between $50 and $100. You could say it's not common at all for the average price to be higher than $250. Again, write a sentence of some sort that summarizes that. So I'm going to say it's rare for the average ticket price to exceed $250. Okay, that's my conclusion. Again, it doesn't have to be yours. All right, so that's some basics about histograms. We will talk about shapes in the next video, and you will be, again, making a histogram in the example that follows that.